After watching this video, you will know what each term means when playing Disney's Lorcana, the first chapter. Hello Rebels, and welcome to the place for any and all info on Lorcana. Now we're going to just jump right into it, and the first turn we're going to go over is turn. Now, turn, like you can see here, it says on this cut to the chase Ruby action card, chosen character gains rush this turn. Now, that means the entire round of play for a player. Now, that starts when the player will execute their ready, set, draw at the top of their turn. And then you'll play your cards. Once you're done, your turn is over, and the next player's turn begins. It's important to understand for cards that say, on your turn. Now, the next term we're going to talk about is play. So, for instance, on this Alien Pirate John Silver Emerald card here, for his ability it says, when you play this character. So what that means is when you spend the ink cost on the card to play the character. Not when they get readied and they're ready to be used, but when they're actually played and drying. So for this character, when you play him, you would choose a character, an opponent's character, and give them the Reckless ability. Now, the next term we're going to talk about, and less of a term, more of an image on these cards, is this hexagon shape, which you can see. So for this Bumbler LeFou Amber card here, just great silly piece of artwork there. It says, if you have a character named Gaston in play, you pay one less hexagon to play this character. Now, that means ink. So when you're using ink, like for instance, you need to use 2 of them to play this card. If you have a Gaston in play, you can pay 1 less of it from your inkwell there. Now, the next term we're going to talk about is quest. Now, here we have this Alchemist Yzma from one of my favorite Disney movies, The Emperor's New Groove. And for her card, it says, whenever this character quests, look at the top card of your deck. So that means when she's up here ready to do something and you turn her sideways to score yourself a point, that's questing, and then that is when you would get that ability. Now, the next term we're going to talk about is challenge. Now, here we have Dragon Slayer Prince Philip. It's a card from the Amber deck. And his card says, when this character challenges and is banished, you may banish the challenged character. Which means that when you turn him sideways to attack an opponent character, that's when that ability would work for challenging. And one important thing to know for challenging as well is that you will take damage too based off of the opposing character card's strength, even if you banish them. And the opposing character must be exerted in order for you to target them in a challenge. And the next term that we're going to talk about here is banish. Now, just kind of like what I said in the previous card there, banish is a specific term when it comes to challenging or dealing damage to cards. Here we have our hard-headed beast. A really nice piece of artwork that really fits the color scale of the steel deck as well. I really like the artwork on this one. But it says, when you play this character, you may banish chosen item. Which means that you take the card, whether it's an opponent card or for this one an item card, and it goes into the discard pile for that player. So for this one, I would target an opponent's item and they put it in their discard pile. Or for that Prince Philip card, they would put that character that they challenged into their discard pile. Now, up next we have exert. So you'll either see the word exert like listed out, or you'll see this little symbol that kind of looks like the card is being turned sideways. And that's why when I was talking earlier about using a card and turning it sideways, the specific term for that is exert. So when you use a character card on your turn, it will stay on your mat, but you'll either quest, attack, or for this item card, when I use its ability to put any card from my hand into my inkwell face down, I'll exert it. Once a card is exerted, that means it can no longer be used to do anything else. You can turn it sideways. I like to kind of keep them at a diagonal to save me some space, but for the card, essentially, outside of other abilities that allow you to ready a card, which I'm going to talk about next, here, readying, it will stay exerted. So we have our Ruby Fan the Flames, which is an action card featuring LeFou there. And it says, ready chosen character. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. Now, this is useful for protecting cards. So if you, let's say with a character who has low health but can get you 3 points or 3 lore by questing, you don't want them to get challenged. So you could play a card like this to turn them back, so that way they're safe from challenges. Now, the next term we're going to talk about here is action. So we're kind of going to get into the classification for non-character cards here. So an action card is a card that has an immediate effect when played. Once the card is used, it will be placed in your discard pile. So for this card here, Work Together from the Sapphire deck from Emperor's New Groove here, the chosen character would gain support this turn, so you would use its ability and then put it in your discard pile. Now, a special type of action is called a song. Now, I chose this card because Mulan's one of my favorite Disney musicals, and Reflection is one of my favorite Disney songs. I mean, the entire movie has just really great songs. But for a song like this, a character with a cost equal to the cost of the card here can be exerted to play the card instead of spending ink. And then you'll get to the ability. Just like any other action, it will be placed in your discard pile, but they're unique in that you can play them by exerting characters instead of exerting and spending ink. Now, the next classification we're going to talk about is an item. Now, for items like this steel, both, I guess, literal and for ink color type, frying pan here, when you pay the cost to play an item, you'll put it off to the side, not in your discard, because it's an item that can be used based off the ability. So for this one, it says you'll banish this item, which means you discard it, but the chosen character can't challenge during their next turn. So some items, like the, let me pull this one back up here, the fishbone quill here, it will be exerted when you use it, but you can, at the top of your next turn, put it back to normal and you can keep using it each turn. Other items like the frying pan, you get to use once, and then you'll discard it. Now, the next term we're going to talk about is Inkwell. Now, this is where you place your ink on a turn. We have Detective Mickey Mouse from the Sapphire deck here, a very useful card for any Sapphire deck because of its ability to, when you play this character, put the top card of your deck into your Inkwell face down and exert it. Now, what cards like this allow you to do is get more ink in your Inkwell sooner, so you can play higher and expensive, more expensive cards sooner than your opponent. But the Inkwell is going to be, for any standard player, the bottom here, you'll have cards kind of laid out like this. So I'd have, let's say, 3 ink in my Inkwell. And then when I'd play an ink card, or, let's say I want to play the frying pan there, I would exert 2 of my inks to play the card. And that is kind of the importance of the Inkwell. We'll get more into that when we show you our example game and how it's exactly played. Now, the next term we're going to talk about is drawing a card. Now, when a card like this Gracious Host Mad Hatter from the Emerald deck, a staple card in any Emerald deck because of its huge lore amount and the ability here, which is whenever this character is challenged, you may draw a card. So when you see an ability like that tells you to draw a card or draw 2 cards, you're going to have your deck that you can just draw from and add to your hand. Some cards will tell you to discard immediately afterwards, which we're going to kind of get into discarding right here for our final card. Now we have our Sudden Chill Emerald card here. A really cool piece of artwork on this one. And this one says that each opponent chooses and discards a card, which means you'll take a card from your hand. If you have no cards in your hand, you have nothing to discard. You don't discard any cards in play or anything in your inkwell. Discarding is taking a card from your hand and putting it in your discard pile. And that's every unique term you will find on every Lorcana card in the first chapter. Now, if you're looking for more videos on Lorcana, check out the playlist or video here. Until next time, have fun and game on.